third generation MINI Countryman serves up an even trendier confection for youthfully minded customers in the lower mid-sized SUV segment. There's a divisive look, a completely redesigned and more practical cabin, and full electric drivetrains for those wanting them. It's all about as far from the original wood-panelled middle-class 60s Countryman estate as you could imagine.
Want a family-size Mini? Then you probably want this one, the Countryman, considered here in its third generation form. It's the biggest car the company's ever made. There's something rather contradictory about the idea of a large, family-sized Mini. Yet apparently something quite appealing too. The first time this BMW brand introduced such a thing, with the first generation R60 version of this Countryman, launched back in 2010, well over 500,000 models were eventually sold, which was impressive given that original design's somewhat muddled remit. To begin with, it was merely a Mini for folk who wanted sensible standards of space, but as the years progressed, the Countryman's positioning was subtly altered to suit the segment where the sales were, that for compact crossovers. Even then, it never quite hit the spot, even in the second generation F60 form launched in 2016, a car built in an old Dutch plant that once churned out small Volvos and based on the UK L2 platform used by all smaller BMWs of the period. Even then, though, it wasn't quite big enough, continuing to fall uncomfortably between Duke segment Super Mini-based SUVs and Qashqai segment family hatch-based ones. A bit of a rethink was needed, which is what's brought us this larger, rather different U25 series Mark III era Countryman. It's more BMW than ever before. Basically, almost everything you can't see inside and out is shared with BMW's two smallest SUVs, the X1 and the X2. The Countryman even rolls out of the same Leipzig factory as those two cars, the first Mini to be built in Germany. And it's now properly big enough, not only for Qashqai class folk, but also to create a space large enough in the Mini range for another SUV model, the all-electric Aceman, to slot in beneath it, replacing the now departed Clubman Estate. The BMW underpinnings mean we can have a full EV version for the first time too, though Mini still expects combustion model sales to predominate for the foreseeable future. We've got the top JCW fossil-fueled version here. A more credible contender then, though one very different in concept from many of the things this charismatic brand used to represent. The Countryman name is borrowed from the old Austin designation for estate cars in times past. Models with quaint wood adornment on their rear ends. This, in contrast, though, is no Countryman for old men, aiming to appeal instead to younger buyers who've outgrown so-called smaller Minis, but not their appetite for the brand. Will those people like what they find here? And will this third generation model's appeal reach out beyond them? Well, you'll need the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test, to find out. Given this car's size and price, you'd expect it to be a more grown-up thing than smaller Mini models, safer, more spacious and able to cover longer distances. But, as any teenager will tell you, being grown-up can also mean being a bit boring. So, will driving a Countryman feel like driving a Mini? Well, let's flick this little starter toggle to the right, start it up and find out. Set off down the road and first impressions are that to some extent it does. The ride is very firm and you get this remarkably quick steering, which immediately gives the car a keener feel than you'd get in most crossover rivals. We're quite aware, of course, that not everyone choosing a car in this segment wants that. For sure, there'll be quite a few Qashqai class customers out there who'll find the springing on this car to be stiffer than they would like, an issue that's inevitably exacerbated with larger wheel sizes and only partly alleviated by the optional adaptive damping system. If, on the other hand, you haven't yet abandoned a desire for driving enjoyment, then you might take the view that all of this is a worthwhile trade-off for the way that one of these allows a little friskiness on the way back from the school run. It's best not to get carried away though. Throw the car hard into a corner, and the touch of understeer and body roll you get make it immediately obvious that you're driving something quite different from the Minis that some of us know and love. This model's crossover class pretensions see it riding quite a bit higher than models from the brand intended only for tarmac territory. Plus, in comparison to say a little mini hatch, this Countryman is of course considerably heavier. Both these issues have to make a dynamic difference, and inevitably they do. It's not enough though to detract from a fun and friendly feel that's very different from the kind of things served up by most contemporary segment competitors. With this Mini, you simply point the car where you want to go, and it turns in with precision and masses of grip, especially on quicker models that come fitted with the brand's all-4 four-wheel drive system, which is able to send power to every wheel for the best possible traction. In normal circumstances, this setup drives only the front wheels, but as soon as a loss of grip is detected, up to 100% of engine torque can, if necessary, be sent rearwards. Ah yes, engines. We should talk about those. Mini wants to be a full EV brand, but not quite yet, which is why, though new full electric variants headline this third generation Countryman lineup, a huge proportion of sales will still be of the combustion models we're focusing on here. With diesel consigned to history, these are all of the petrol-powered sort and must all use the brand's usual Steptronic 7-speed dual-clutch auto transmission. The big sales numbers are likely to be accounted for by the entry-level, front-driven Countryman C, with its 1.5 litre, 170 horsepower, 3-cylinder, mild hybrid turbo unit, good for 62 miles an hour in 8.3 seconds, en route to 132 miles an hour. The other two combustion Countrymans have 4-cylinder, 2-litre units allied to that all-4 four-wheel drive system I just mentioned. The Countryman S offers 218 horsepower, which means 0 to 62 in 7.1 seconds en route to 142 miles an hour. And the Countryman John Cooper Works all-4 model we're trying here has a prodigious 300 horsepower, which improves the 62 mile an hour sprint time to just 5.4 seconds, on the way to 155 miles an hour if you're quick with the provided steering wheel paddles and use the boost overtaking function offered by the left-hand one. This JCW variant gets the adaptive suspension setup as standard, which lowers the car by 15mm and includes even firmer frequency selective dampers. It also gets a bassy, rich-sounding engine note, which on closer inspection turns out to be mainly embellished by the audio speakers. At the other end of the ecological scale lie the full EV Countryman variants. These aren't our main focus here, but we'll brief you on the fact that there are two, both using a 64.7 kilowatt-hour battery. Things kick off with the single-motor Countryman Electric E, which offers 201 horsepower, 62 miles an hour in 8.6 seconds, and a range of 287 miles. The alternative is the Countryman Electric SE, which adds an extra electric motor on the rear axle, creating a nominal four-wheel drive system. This boosts total output to 308 horsepower with 494 newton meters of torque, and the 62 mile an hour sprint time drops to just 5.6 seconds, but range drops too to 269 miles. Across the combustion and electric Countryman lineups, you get a range of Mini experience drive modes. For rapid driving, you'll want the most eager one, Go-Kart. In the JCW model, this allows for the introduction of a brilliant bass pop and crackle from the exhaust on the overrun. Lovely. There are plenty of other experience settings, though most of them seem to have more to do with coloured ambience and chimes than driving. Choose from Core, Green, Vivid, Timeless, Personal, Balance and Trail. All of this frippery is reflective of the fact that actually not much of a typical Countryman's owner's usual mileage will be spent driving in any way sportily. So in town you might not appreciate the slightly firmer ride that is typical in this segment, though even on poorer surfaces it's never really downright uncomfortable. For urban driving you might also struggle with this car's quite prodigious size, which sounds strange to be saying about a Mini. Including the door mirrors, after all, this one's over 2 meters wide. You certainly won't be hurtling yourself through width restrictions and down narrow streets in the way you might in a little mini hatch, that's for sure. On the highway, this Countryman feels far more at home. It's as refined as just about anything else we've tried in this class. And if your pockets are deep enough, it can be ordered with a wider range of camera and radar assisted drive features than any other segment rival we've yet tried. It won't of course be any use for the gnarly tracks you might encounter in the kind of off-road adventure promised by Mini's advertising. There simply isn't the ground clearance for that. But in reality, a different kind of adventure is being envisaged here, and we think it's one that quite a few young at heart segment customers might rather like. In third generation form, the Countryman offers the versatility of a compact crossover while maintaining iconic Mini proportions. Short overhangs, a short bonnet and a contrasting long wheelbase. This contemporary exterior design is supported by clear-cut surfaces, a slightly curved roof and a newly designed C-pillar, making the vehicle appear shorter. Back in 2010, the original Countryman was bigger than any Mini model we'd previously imagined. Well, now, at way past 4.4 metres in length, it's a lot bigger still, 13 centimetres longer and 6 centimetres taller than the second generation design introduced in 2016. Some will find the swollen stance visually challenging, and there are some curious touches like that heavily stylised model branded C-pillar I just mentioned with its contrast coloured panel. Black plastic wheel arch surrounds and roof rails supply the crossover vibe, while big wheels between 17 and 20 inches in size suit the current trend. We've got 20-inch John Cooper Works flag spoke two-tone rims here. Avoid base trim and you can have this contrasting multi-tone roof. Available in a choice of 6 different colours, including the chilly red finish we've got here. At the front, there's much the same octagonal grille and range of lighting signatures as you'd get from the latest Mini hatch, though here the LED headlights are of a lozenge shape. They project 3 unique light signatures, and optionally the daytime running light elements can be switched to create 3 adjustable light signatures. A Mini branded forward-facing windscreen camera helps with this third generation model's considerably expanded portfolio of drive assist features. At the rear, the Countryman letters are still separated out across the tailgate as with the previous generation car, but nothing else seems to have been carried forward. The vertical LED light clusters, here with latticed finishing, but also available with a Union flag motif, are reminiscent of classic Mini design and can be switched to different modes in the same way as the front headlights. In addition, all light modes start and end with a specially orchestrated welcome and goodbye animation. Across the range you get this dinky little rear wiper, vertical corner reflectors and a subtle black roof antenna. OK, time to take a look inside. Now, you might not think the Countryman looks much like a Mini from the outside. Well, it's arguably even less like one inside. Yes, there's the brand's usual dinner plate-sized circular fascia screen and a couple of subtle toggle switches on the centre stack, but otherwise, this minimalist interior aims to set its own style trends. It's a design shared with the new era Mini hatch, though here the extended dimensions allow for an enlarged centre console. What you'll notice immediately is that there's no instrument binnacle. Instead, everything's relocated to that big round so-called mini interaction unit central monitor, including a speedometer, though most models will have a head-up display which brings velocity more directly into your line of sight. Virtually all the previous generation cars' buttons and switches have been removed from the fascia and centre console, including, unfortunately, the old rotary infotainment controller. A small panel with a few shortcut buttons is all that remains, with a twistable starter, a large toggle for gear selection, and a smaller one for the various experiences drive modes. This being a Mini, there are lots of stylised design touches, notably this unusual fabric covering for the upper dash, which is made of knitted recycled polyester, and the finishing of which is determined by which of the 3 trim levels you select. Here, as you can see, there's a sporty red flecked vibe in play. The other overriding cabin theme is that of vertically, principally for these 4 dashboard vents, 2 of which flank the centre screen, and also for the unusual door handles. The steering wheel's rather distinct too, with its fabric lower 6 o'clock spoke. There's an unusual indented latticed finish for the upper plastic dash top. With the premium audio system, you get these tiny little Harman Kardon speakers near the A-pillars, and between the seats there's this little personal Mini branded lidded box, presumably for storing your personal Mini branded effects. But it's that 9.4-inch Mini interaction unit that really dominates this cabin. This very thin 240mm diameter touchscreen build as the world's first OLED display, and offering what Mini calls a giant leap into the digital world. Perhaps inevitably, given that this one screen must perform the functions that in other cars are handled by at least 2, and sometimes 3 separate displays, it's rather overburdened with information. Certainly on initial familiarisation, you're going to need quite a lot of time to adjust to how it works. Ever-present aspects of this display include the drive element on the upper half of the screen, which displays vehicle-related info like speed, range, gear selection, the prevailing speed limit and your fuel level. Also fixed is the status bar on the lower part of the screen, which has a home button flanked by the main infotainment elements: phone, navigation, radio and climate, because ventilation functions sadly haven't been separated out from this monitor. Cabin temperature gauges flank this status bar, while an engine temperature readout sits just above it. Mostly everything else on this big round screen changes. The centre part of it is home to selectable infotainment features, which can also show full screen, the car's clever cloud-based 3D navigation mapping system, for instance. There really is an awful lot here. We've got the brand's Air Console games and Alexa fitted in this case, for instance. There's optional 5G capability, and you can add to it all by using this screen to visit the Mini Connected store, where you can add individual apps or a package of Mini Connected upgrades. The vibrant colours of the display and the big gauges that show either side of its middle infotainment section vary as you scroll through the various experience drive modes. There are 8 of these, some of which seem to be trying rather too hard to be fashionable, and all of which are accompanied by individual chimes on activation. There's brown-themed trail with its compass, blue-themed balance and the sunset-themed personal mode, which allows you to add your own individually selected image via the My Mini app. There's also the timeless mode with its vintage graphics, the magenta-themed vivid setting, the eco-orientated green mode, then core and sporty go-kart finished in anthracite and red. You're certainly not short of choice. Via a digital colour picker, the dominant colours of the setting images can be built into a smart ambient lighting system, which sees projectors flash a light show across the new textile dashboard at night. It's all very on-trend. As is the Mini Intelligent Personal Assistant voice control setup, which works on screen with your choice of avatar. Either a little Mini or a British bulldog called Spike, which works a bit like the Fox avatar you get in a smart #1. It's all a bit contrived, to be honest, but some tech-savvy Mini folk might like it. Clever is the way it can learn your motoring routines using geo-based data, so the car will automatically lower the driver's window when passing the ticket machine or entry barrier of a frequently used car park or office entrance, for example. You activate the voice system by pushing a steering wheel button or using the greeting, "Hey Mini." What else? Well, the synthetic leather upholstered sports seats look quite nice and can be raised to give quite a commanding view over the bonnet. But unless you pay a considerable amount more for the top option pack that gives you proper lumbar adjustment and a massaging system, they lack a bit for lower back support, which you'll feel on longer journeys. Frontward visibility is fine. The windscreen pillars positioned so they're easy to see around at junctions. But the chunky side and rear pillars can sometimes impede rearward vision, so you're going to need the standard rear parking sensors and rear view camera. And other issues? Well, as mentioned, we miss the old lower rotary display controller that reduced the need to stab away at the touchscreen. Plus, we've also already touched upon the inconvenience of having to search through centre screen menus to adjust the climate system. The icons used to adjust cabin temperature at 5 and 7 o'clock on the screen are frustratingly small. And once you connect up your phone using the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto systems, you'll also notice that the format's rectangular layout looks rather awkward in the middle of the circular display. On initial familiarisation, you might struggle to locate the starter switch too. Cabin storage is a mixed bag. The glove box and door pockets aren't very big, and this sliding armrest between the seats doesn't have any space within. An open tray beneath has a 12-volt socket and 2 USB-C ports, though it would have been helpful to get at least one of these inside the aforementioned mini box just in front, so smartphones could have been charged out of sight of prying eyes. Ahead of that mini box are twin cup holders, and ahead of that there's an open stowage area with a ledge for a wireless charging mat just above. Ticket clips are in the sun visors, but there's no overhead stowage compartment for your sunglasses. Enough on the front, let's take a look in the back. Now, you don't expect to find a lot of rear seat space in any model bearing a Mini badge, but this third generation Countryman is over 4.4 metres long. 145mm longer than the car it's replaced, as well as being 64mm wider and 104mm taller. So it really ought to be family-sized in the back. By and large, it is. The redesigned platform has freed up an extra 130mm of legroom, and via an extra cost package, the backrest can individually adjust through 6 positions by up to 12 degrees, and as before, the seat base can slide by up to 13 centimetres. Make the most of all this, and there'll be just enough room between 600 and 740mm, depending on seat base position, for a 6-footer to stretch out behind a front seat occupant of similar height, helped by the ease with which you can slide your feet beneath the seat ahead. In short, lankier passengers who might have felt cramped in the back of the previous generation model will be less likely to complain in this one. Headroom's quite generous as well, even with this optional panoramic glass roof fitted, which is worth having because it floods the rather dark cabin with light, helped by big rear quarter-light windows. Standard models have 940mm of headroom. You might struggle to fit in a middle-seated adult thanks to this pronounced central transmission hump. Above that are twin vertical vents with twin USB-C ports and a rather useless shallow tray beneath. There's the usual armrest with twin cup holders plus seat back pockets and overhead grab handles that incorporate coat hooks and beady little LED reading lights. The door cards have fiddly vertical handles and scratchy top sections fashioned from that knitted polyester, but they incorporate quite generously sized bins. OK, let's finish with a look out back. Boot space is improved, but only by a scant 10 litres over the old model, which means that once the near vertical powered tailgate raises, you now get 460 litres of it in a long but rather shallow load bay. That's enough for 5 carry-on suitcases, which isn't great by class standards. To give you some perspective, a similarly sized, stylised SUV like Volvo's XC40 can take up to 7 carry-ons, while a fractionally larger upper mid-sized SUV like Volkswagen's Tiguan will take up to 9 of them. The loading bay sill height is high, which won't help in lumping up heavy loads. Still, at least the space you do get is very usable. There are wide recesses to the left and right, so things like golf bags or buggies will easily go in widthways. There's a recessed lower tray and a light on the right-hand side, bag hooks on both sides, and no fewer than 6 floor tie-down points. Unfortunately, Mini hasn't fitted an adjustable height boot floor, but there's plenty of space beneath the cargo base, more than enough to store the set of charging leads needed by the EV versions, though much of that extra capacity is available because Mini declines to offer any kind of spare wheel. It's helpful that the folding top for this cargo base can be left in a raised position. Not so good is the fact that you can't reverse the cargo base to implement a wipeable surface for muddy boots or muddy dogs. If you've got the optional sliding rear seat package, it'll obviously be easier to change the ratio of rear passenger room to boot space depending on your needs. Even making the rear backrest a little more upright can make a surprising amount of difference to what you'll be able to carry. For the carriage of longer items, the 40-20-40 rear seatback split is convenient, allowing things like skis to be poked forward between two rear-seated occupants. If everything needs to be folded flat, then up to 1,450 litres of space can be freed up. There's lots of Countryman choice, and at the time of this test in spring 2024, prices, as is now typical in the lower mid-size segment for Qashqai class family SUVs, were starting from just under £30,000. That's for a combustion model, of course, all petrol powered, as is the current trend. As we explained in our driving section, you choose from two basic engines, both available, only matched to 8-speed automatic transmission. Things kick off with the front-driven 1.5-litre Countryman C, which uses a 170 horsepower mild hybrid 3-cylinder unit and comes with a choice of 3 trim options: Classic, Exclusive and Sport. As you might gather from the menacing looks of our test car, that's not what we've got here. The alternative combustion Countryman Mini wants to offer you, which requires you to stretch the family budget to a starting point of around £35,000, is all-wheel driven and uses a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo engine, which in its mainstream form puts out 218 horsepower. That Countryman S all-4 variant comes with the same 3 trim levels as the front-driven model, and if you want more power, can also be had in the really rather rapid single-spec 300 horsepower John Cooper Works guys that we're trying here, which at the time of this test required nearly £42,000 from you. If it's an electric Mini Countryman that you want, there is again the choice of front or all-wheel drive powertrain formats. The base Countryman Electric E, which from launch was priced from around £42,000, puts 204 horsepower through its front wheels and takes you 287 miles between charges. The alternative dual motor all-wheel drive Countryman Electric SE All-4 was priced from launch from just over £47,000, offers 313 horsepower and makes 269 miles between charges. There are the same 3 trim level options as with the mainstream combustion models: Classic, Exclusive and Sport. As for rivals, well, if you're looking at a base combustion Countryman C, the most obvious comparison to make is with the BMW X1 S-Drive 20i that's identically engineered and produced in the same Leipzig factory, and one of those is over £5,000 more. X1s can be had in the diesel and plug-in hybrid forms that this Mini doesn't now offer, but the two cars can be compared directly again if you're after all-electric drive, and iX1 requires a premium of just over £4,000 more than a comparable Countryman electric. It's really combustion power that's our focus here, and for that, Countryman pricing looks competitive against obvious mainstream brand segment rivals outside of the BMW group. Mini has price pitched this car right in the centre of its sector. The asking figures are about the same as you'd pay for a comparable Nissan Qashqai, Vauxhall Grandland or Kia Sportage, which means that in segment terms you'll pay a bit more than you would for, say, a Seat Attica or a Skoda Karoq, and quite a bit more than cars like the Citroën C5 Aircross or the MG HS. But a bit less than is required for fractionally larger contenders in this class like Ford's Kuga, Hyundai's Tucson, Peugeot's 3008, Mazda's CX-5 and Volkswagen's Tiguan. That's not a completely comprehensive list of all the alternative choices in the segment, but in general, the remaining models we haven't mentioned don't really compete directly with this Mini in terms of size and price, even if they once did. The size increases of this third generation Countryman have taken it clear of some of the fractionally smaller stylised contenders in this class that its predecessor used to compete against. Cars like the Volkswagen T-Roc, the Jeep Renegade, the Honda HR-V and the Kia Exceed, but even so, none of those cars will save you that much over a Countryman. If, having considered all of that, you conclude that it is a Countryman that you really want, then you're going to need to be satisfied on spec. So let's take a closer look at that now. Now, all Countrymans get things like alloy wheels, LED headlights, rear parking sensors, a rear view camera, a powered tailgate, a heated sports steering wheel, sports seats upholstered in synthetic leather, and so on. All Countrymans also come with the brand's MyMini app, which will be particularly useful if you've got an electric version, briefing you on battery range and helping you schedule charge replenishment. A key part of this third generation design is the standard new Operating System 9 infotainment system with its 9.4-inch LED mini interaction unit, round central screen, which includes the usual Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring and cloud-based mini navigation. This screen's also your interaction point with the various mini experience driving modes. Depending on model, there are up to 8 of these to choose from: Core, Green, Go-Kart, Personal, Vivid, Timeless, Trail and Balance, each of which alters the screen's digital appearance. As you'd expect, the Operating System 9 setup also includes an advanced voice control system, the Mini Intelligent Personal Assistant, which works on screen with your choice of avatar, either a little Mini or, weirdly, for a car that's German-built and designed, a British bulldog called Spike. You activate the system by pushing a steering wheel button or using the greeting, "Hey Mini." Much else, though, requires quite a lot of extra spend from you thanks to various extra cost packs, which are probably going to take the cost of your chosen combustion Countryman to the wrong side of £35,000. With a base Countryman C or a base Countryman Electric E, there are level 1 and level 2 packages, both of which cost quite a lot more. The level 1 package includes a number of things you might have hoped would be standard in an SUV of this price, like a wireless charging mat, power folding mirrors, sliding rear seats, an auto-dimming rear view mirror, front heated seats, a high beam assistant and a luggage net, plus the level 1 package also includes a head-up display, adaptive LED headlights, comfort access, keyless entry and a 9-litre increase in the fuel tank size to 54 litres. All of these level 1 features come as standard if you stretch to a Countryman S or an electric Countryman SE. What about the level 2 package upgrade, which costs extra whichever kind of Countryman you decide upon? Well, that gives you a few more of the real niceties, like a panoramic glass sunroof, sun protection glass, active cruise control and a 365-watt 12-speaker Harman Kardon surround sound system. If you've even more to spend, a further level 3 package is also available. With this, Mini will further add an active driver's seat with 4-way lumbar support and a massage function, plus electric memory seats and a personal eSIM for the high-speed internet connection that'll facilitate mobile office work on the road, video streaming, gaming and so on. There's also a Parking Assistant Plus package that gives you a 360-degree parking view camera setup on the centre screen that uses 4 integrated cameras around the car and gives you 3D representations of other vehicles and surrounding objects. Another useful level 3 package inclusion is the added augmented reality function for the navigation system, which allows you to find your way with greater accuracy. With this, a live video stream from the driver's perspective is shown on the centre screen and augmented by supplementary information that matches the context. When dealing with confusing junctions, for instance, an animated directional arrow is integrated into the video image to help the driver take the best turn off for the planned route. The Level 3 package also includes the brand's clever new interior camera setup, which works via an overhead interior camera that can be used by the car's occupants to take snapshots during the journey, to be shared with friends and family via a QR code in the control display using the inbuilt Wi-Fi. Hours of fun. You can also use the interior camera when you're not even in the car, using your smartphone and the My Mini app remote function, which would be useful if, for instance, you wanted to glance inside the cabin to check whether bags or other items have been left there. There's additionally the peace of mind of knowing that the interior camera will also be activated when an inbuilt remote theft recorder is triggered. The most significant Level 3 package inclusion though, and probably the main reason you'd pay the large amount extra Mini wants for this equipment upgrade, is the brand's portfolio of driving assistant professional drive assist features. More on those later. On combustion models, both Level 2 and Level 3 packages can be ordered with a tow bar included. So much for the equipment package upgrades. What about the differences between the 3 trim levels we mentioned earlier, Classic, Exclusive and Sport? Well, those are really more down to the kind of look and feel you want your Countryman to have. The Classic trim represents the brand's logo in a fresh colour, vibrant silver, and offers a range of 3 external paint finishes: melting silver, midnight black and Nanook white. Plus there are 2 roof colour options and 3 wheel options. Inside a Classic spec model though, it's all rather dark, with black synthetic leather upholstery and a 2-tone black knitted material decorating the dash. Which of course is entirely intentional, because Mini wants you to spend more to give your chosen Countryman a more vibrant look inside and out. Mid-level Exclusive trim gives you a bit more of that, introducing this contrasting multi-tone roof offered with a choice of 6 different colours or a Spray-Tech 3-colour blend, and finishing the entire front grille in that vibrant silver colour. Inside, in an Exclusive trimmed Countryman, there's a nicer kind of synthetic leather upholstery, perforated vesting with accent stitching, plus a cheerier 2-tone houndstooth fabric finish for the dashboard. For something approaching the more dynamic look we have here though, you'll need Sport trim, which gets you a body kit with a spoiler, redesigned bumpers and side skirts, plus high gloss black colouring for the front grille frame and brand logo colour. Sport customers can also add a contrasting chili red roof, which, as you can see, we have here, and red or black bonnet stripes. Inside with Sport trim, there's red seat stitching and a multicoloured knitted textile finish for the dash. As for this top John Cooper Works combustion version, well, as you might expect, this comes only with Sport trim, but also has some extra embellishments. There's an even more overt body kit with a deep lower rear diffuser incorporating this top power plant's 4 potent exhaust pipes. Adaptive suspension's standard, which lowers the car by 15mm and includes frequency selective dampers. There's special exterior and interior badging, plus an artificially embellished exhaust note. And if you pay the small amount extra to add the Level 2 equipment package, as almost all JCW customers will, you get these 20-inch John Cooper Works flag spoke 2-tone wheels. The Level 3 equipment package on this top model adds special JCW performance brake discs as well. Whatever your choice of Countryman, there's plenty else to spend extra on with various individual options. The adaptive suspension setup, just mentioned, can be added to a more standard model. And we'd maybe look at the Parking Assistant Professional package, an automatic parking system aided by 12 ultrasonic sensors and the 4 surround view cameras of the lesser Parking Assistant Plus package we mentioned earlier. With Parking Assistant Professional fitted, the car can identify spaces and steer itself into them. And you can also use a clever remote parking function, which allows you to stand outside the car and automatically manoeuvre it. Useful if you're in a space-restricted parking area and can't open the door. The cameras used for this parking system are also employed in another clever extra cost feature, the brand's Drive Recorder. This is basically like a dash cam, except a lot more sophisticated. The Drive Recorder system uses inbuilt cameras to record video footage from different points around the vehicle before storing the event and crash recordings so they can be either watched later on the control display or exported via the USB port. Recordings can be up to 40 seconds long. For accident playback, you get 20 seconds before the impact and the 20 seconds after it. Of course, many Countryman customers are going to be more interested in trendy looks than trending technology. So, style options include a choice of 17-inch, 19-inch, or if you have your chiropractor on permanent speed dial, 20-inch alloy wheels. For your lifestyle adventures, you can also add the usual roof crossbars for the fitment of a roof box or carriers for skis, snowboards or bicycles. And cycles can additionally be carried on the optional mini rear bike carrier, which sits on the optional tow bar and can be tilted to allow easy access to the boot. You'll want to consider media embellishments as well, of course. Various MINI connected upgrades give customers the opportunity to purchase additional media functions. In conjunction with the optional MINI Connected package, the MINI Connected store provides access to a constantly evolving variety of apps, including gaming, music and video streaming. For instance, the brand's new Air Console app provides a unique form of in-car gaming for all passengers, making their smartphones game controllers on the dashboard's centre OLED display. It's also worth mentioning that the MINI Experience driving modes we referenced earlier can be paired to an optional MINI projector, which casts colours and patterns onto the fascia in an extension of the available ambient lighting system. Onto safety and a level of possible provision that seems an awful long way from model founder Alec Issigone's original thoughts on the subject back in the 60s. When asked about the crashworthiness of the early Mini, he said, "I make my cars with such good brakes and such good steering that if people get into a crash, it's their own fault." Thankfully, things have progressed a bit in the safety department since then. There are anti-lock brakes, of course, which include electronic brake force distribution, cornering brake control, and a brake assist feature to help in emergency stops, advertised to following motorists by automatically activating dynamic brake lights. So that you're always primed for a swift stop, there's tyre pressure monitoring, fading brake support and a brake drying function that will imperceptibly dab the discs in wet weather to keep them dry. There's also the usual stability control system and a DTC or dynamic traction control setup that in poor conditions allows a bit of controlled slip at the drive wheels, so moving away on loose sand or deep snow can be a little smoother. All Countrymans also get a trailer stabilisation function that'll stop trailer sway if you've got that tow bar fitted, and hill start assistant to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions. If all of that isn't enough to avoid a collision, then ISOFIX child seat fastenings, a pedestrian-friendly bonnet and twin front, side and curtain airbags will all be welcome features, as will the included attentiveness assistant and the eCall intelligent emergency calling system. In the event of a crash, this setup automatically detects vehicle location and accident severity before contacting a call centre to initiate fast and effective assistance. Also standard is what MINI calls Active Guard, a front collision warning system that scans the road ahead for potential collision hazards. If one's detected, you'll be warned, and if you don't respond or aren't able to, the brakes will automatically be applied to decrease the severity of any resulting accident. There's lane departure warning and, irritatingly, thanks to the Brussels bureaucrats, you have to have a speed limit warning, speed limit exceeded warning beep. Something you'll probably be fishing around to turn off every time you start the car. If you want more in terms of camera driver assistance, then you'll need the Driving Assistant Plus package that comes as part of the Level 2 equipment pack we were briefing you on earlier. In addition to automatic active cruise control This includes active lane keeping assist and automatic adoption for the speed limit detection. So the car will automatically adapt itself to posted speed limits. One day, probably frighteningly soon, we expect that to be mandatory on all new cars. Not all camera, drive assist and safety technology is over-intrusive, though some of it can be really quite useful, as you'll discover if you pay the vast amount more that MINI wants for the Level 3 equipment package that includes the brand's suite of its most advanced driving assistant professional features, as fitted here. Here you get extended automated lane assistant functionality that includes hands-off highway driving in heavy traffic up to 37 miles an hour, which, believe it or not, is now legal in the UK. With a full suite of features fitted, there's an astonishing amount to ease your motoring life. Some of it you may have seen before: side collision warning and lane change warning, basically blind spot monitoring systems. Exit warning to stop occupants opening their doors in the face of oncoming vehicles or cyclists. Distance control to keep you a safe distance from the vehicle in front. Road priority warning to stop you from inadvertently going the wrong way down a one-way street, and a lane change assistant which allows the car to autonomously change lane with a flick of the indicator stalk. There's plenty else though you might not have experienced. Route speed control will automatically control the car's speed through fast corners to preset fast, medium or slow settings. A stop at traffic lights feature will pre-warn you to stop at a set of oncoming lights and includes a drive-off reminder that tells you when the light goes green if your attention has drifted off elsewhere. An actively follow the route feature automatically reduces your speed when navigation is active and you're approaching a required highway exit or turning. An assisted view displays vehicle surroundings in the head-up display when driver assistance is active. All these assistance systems are visualised in real time by means of an assisted view feature on the car's central OLED display. And you can be advised of their activation by steering wheel vibrations and what MINI calls steering wheel impulses for upcoming manoeuvres. Like every other brand, MINI's parent company BMW has long ago stopped development of combustion engines, but it has at least added a light sprinkling of electrification to the core 1.5-litre, 3-cylinder, turbocharged petrol unit carried over from the previous generation model and fitted to the front-driven combustion model that, for the time being anyway, will account for the majority of sales. As usual with mild hybrids, you shouldn't get your hopes up too much with regard to the difference this might make. In fact, the quoted returns for the Countryman C variant in question are actually worse than MINI quoted us for the equivalent 1.5-litre model back in 2017 when we tested the second generation version of this car. Today, MINI says a Countryman C will manage up to 46.3 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 138 grams per kilometre of CO2. The mild hybrid setup works as these systems usually do, fitting a powerful 48-volt starter generator and a tiny second battery enables a significant increase in the amount of brake energy that can be regenerated and stored. This energy is used not just to supply the electrical system, but also to lighten the combustion engine's workload and boost its power. The starter generator also increases efficiency by assisting the engine when driving at constant speeds and works the car's start-stop system. You'd expect that quite a drop in efficiency would be incurred by switching your attention instead to the 4-cylinder, 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine we're trying here. But in its mainstream 218 horsepower form, even saddled with all the extra weight of an all-4 all-wheel drive system, the returns aren't all that much different, up to 41.5 mpg and up to 155 grams per kilometre of CO2. This uprated 300 horsepower JCW models version of that 2-litre unit can't match that, of course. The quoted figures for this flagship variant are up to 36.2 mpg and up to 177 grams per kilometre. Getting anywhere near any of those quoted figures will require regular selection of the most frugal of the provided Mini Experience driving modes, Green. Bear in mind that entry-level Countryman C combustion variants without the Level 1 equipment package will have a lower overall driving range because they feature a 45-litre fuel tank that's 9 litres smaller than that fitted to the other versions. As for the Countryman electric models, well, we gave you the range figures for those in our driving section: 287 miles for the E and 269 miles for the SE. The 64.7 kilowatt-hour battery that both variants use can be rapid charged at rates of up to 130 kilowatts, and so connected can be replenished from 10 to 80% in half an hour. AC charging via the usual 7.4 kilowatt garage wall box takes 10 hours, dropping to 6.5 if your home or office happens to have a 3-phase supply and you can fit an 11 kilowatt wall box. 22 kilowatt AC charging is optional, which would allow a 3-phase supply to charge the car even faster. Whatever Countryman electric variant you select, you'll want to use the MyMini app as part of its battery replenishment regime. This provides a convenient overview of the vehicle status and charging process, including current battery status, charging optimised route planning, and charging history. What else might you need to know about running a combustion or electric-powered version of this Countryman? Well, insurance groupings start at 20 for the Countryman C, Group 25 for the Countryman S All 4, and Group 33 for this JCW All 4 variant. For the EVs, it's Group 23 for the Countryman E or Group 31 for the Countryman SE. Across the range, residual values are bound to be quite strong. The 3-year retention figures you get with Mini models are always well above the class average, and we wouldn't expect much change over the figure that experts predicted for the previous generation model, which was 53% after 3 years and 36,000 miles of ownership. As expected, there's the usual unremarkable 3-year unlimited mileage warranty, and the deal also includes a Mini MOT Protect Assurance Guarantee, stating that in the unlikely event your car should fail its first, second or third MOT test, Mini will cover the cost of repair or replacement on an array of selected parts. It's tempting to say that this is a different kind of Mini Countryman. The evolved look, the redesigned cabin, and in the case of the battery-powered variants, the switch from PHEV to full electric drive are all things that suggest that. Ultimately, though, the thing that really makes this third-generation design different is its subtle shift up-market in size and price. If, though, you can still stretch to a Countryman, then there's lots to like here, providing you appreciate the slightly divisive, otherworldly styling. The combustion variants we've focused on here deliver that at what initially seems like reasonably affordable prices, at least compared to the identically engineered small BMW SUVs that roll down the same Leipzig production line. But once you've added in the features you'll probably want on this Mini, you'll find that the asking price quickly rises as steeply as it usually does with German brands. So, it's just as well that, in terms of rear seat room and boot space, this is now a proper competitor for a Qashqai class lower mid-sized SUV with a little sprinkling of premium appeal that might also tempt in folk who would otherwise have opted for a poshly badged model in this class. The redesigned interior is a big improvement, the efficiency stats look competitive, and this model's fun-to-drive USP has been retained. If all that sounds tempting, then a new Mini adventure awaits.